Honor to be here and to present to you the personality formation system by Pastor Sunday. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Valentina Kukhtyk, and I've been the Embassy of God Church member since 2003. And for 5 years, I was the senior, first just coordinator, and then senior coordinator of all Pastor Sunday's home groups. And I will share with you today with the overall system and with some insights of how this system worked in my life and in the lives of people I know who are also church members. And I'll do my best to share with all the information I know. And before I start, I would like to pray. And let's pray together. My dear God, today I'm going to share the information and the knowledge and the teaching with your people. Everything you want me to share, please help me to share. Please use me fully and completely. Use my eyes, use my voice, use my wisdom, my brains, myself physically, mentally, spiritually, and let me forget myself and let me be your tool, your instrument, so that you could deliver, so I could deliver your message and everything you wanted to share with your people today, this morning. And I'm prayed in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. So let me start with some questions, so that we could I could learn a bit about what you've already received during this training. So what were the topics yesterday? What did you hear about? Maybe what were your main things you heard for yourself yesterday, or you got for yourself, you received for yourself yesterday?
For me, what stood out to me was just coming to grips with the whole concept of what it means to say, go into all nations. Because I've always pictured that as going into the world. But I never defined it or broke it down as nation could mean maybe people's personal interest or sense of gravity. So for me, that was an eye-opener for me.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Great.
that's what.
Great. Yes, great. That's good. Maybe. So as I understand, you had 3 speakers yesterday, right? One of them was Pastor Sunday, and Alex. He was sharing about
church shift.
Church
How to
shift.
implement the church.
Yes.
So went through the process of and the aspect that we must go
Yes.
instead of just staying put. So going and being a disciple
Yes.
and having a set of value and be able to how to connect with society using the church social network.
Yes.
And that was a new aspect about the social church.
So it's like a new instrument for reaching people and for changing people's lives.
Exactly. So the strategy behind it, where you just place enforce a system where you're able to draw them in, responding to their needs.
Yes.
And once the needs are responded, then we can then introduce the gospel. And this is just a wonderful approach, which is Bible-based. So that was
yes, it's a wonderful approach, and it works very well for them because their center, their Christian center, is quite active, and they are making very good progress in reaching people and bringing people to church in a very so-called in-traditional way. Because we all know that in many countries in the world, people lose interest in traditional churches, and they don't find it interesting or exciting or whatever to come to the church every Sunday because they see it as tradition rather than a need or requirement for themselves. So it's a very good instrument, and they're very good. They offer English classes, they offer different psychological trainings, and people in our country, people are very interested in learning more about those things. So it's just an instrument, so good.
And Pastor
Igor,
yeah, he told us about the church growth strategy that the Embassy of God uses. And the secret behind that is really raising leaders.
Yes.
Not
followers, not just followers.
Yeah, not just followers. And he challenged, I don't know, he made a statement that I don't really remember, but the main thing was that as you're raising leaders, they have themselves to be filled. You have to work with yourself first. Because if you're empty, you have nothing to give out.
Yes.
So that was also very interesting. I have to fill ourselves first.
Yes. Yes, good that you said that, because today I will kind of continue what you heard yesterday, and I will share with you the system of personality formation by Pastor Sunday, and that's the system he uses to raise leaders in the Embassy of God. The system works very well, and I'm sure that it can be useful for all pastors or all leaders that would like to have a group of influential people who could influence society, who could kind of bring the values of the kingdom of God to the society. So, who's going to change slides for us? So, you probably, as you yes, thank you. Can you see? Yeah, I think you can see me, and I can see you perfectly well, so I think it's fine. Can you make your notes? Can you see your paper? If not, use the slides. Is it okay? If you're good? Okay, good. So, probably you already heard about the, I'm sure you heard already about the key message that Sunday is delivered in church. This message is the gospel of the kingdom. Instead of gospel of salvation, he teaches the gospel of the kingdom, which means that church, people, Christians should not stay Christians should not stay in church, they should not create kind of internal community, they should go beyond the walls and they should reach the society and change people's lives outside church. In our country, it is the same. If Magomed is the male name, doesn't go to the mountain goes to Magomed. So that's the principle. I think I got it. That's kind of the principle we apply in church. People don't come to church, we go outside the church and find people in different spheres of social, political life, sport life, yes, business, in everything, in different spheres of life. And just go back and in order to be able to transform the society, all pastors and leaders who are focused on it, they need a group of not followers but leaders, similar to pastor or similar to the leader who is a kind of at the head of any movement. All leaders, all pastors have a great calling. We all have a great calling. If it's not great, it's not from God. If our purpose, our calling is not great, it's not from God. If it is from God, it's huge. It's incredibly big. It's a calling which for us seems to be impossible to accomplish. In order to do that, we need a group of leaders, people who can assume responsibility for changes in the society. So that's the main idea of the personal formation system. But it didn't start like that from the very beginning. Because at the very beginning, Embassy of God was, the way pastor trained leaders was quite traditional. On Sundays, we went to the church, we listened to teachings, we read the Bible, we read the books Pastor Sunday advised us to read, and it was not kind of like compulsory system. It was like pastors thought that all people who came to the church, they were all responsible, accountable, and intelligent, and hardworking people, willing and ready to change themselves. But in reality, we know that it's not like that. Many people are not willing to change. They are fine as they are. They are fine, they are more or less, they feel comfortable with the way they live, and all they need is just some money, some peace in the family, good children. I mean, something which is about their family, the way the place where they work, the place where they study, it's about their friends, people they communicate to, church members, and so on. Limited circle of people that counteract. Okay? But it's not enough for people who are supposed to transform the society. Then, so that's the question. Every leader. So that's the question every leader and pastor is intended with focus on transformation of society asks himself or herself. How can you transform, or how can I, as a pastor, transform my church team members into personalities who will take responsibility for their life's purpose and for possessing their country for Christ? How can I transform those people? How can I raise them in the way that they can go and change people's life and the society, the values, the way the society is governed, and things like that. So, next please. So, our church, as a church, has received a lot of visitors from all over the world. And people who came to church always, when they saw thousands of people on Sundays, on Tuesday, Thursdays, those are the days when we came for they thought that Pastor Sunday, when they realized the outcomes of Pastor Sunday's ministry, they thought it because Ukraine was a special country and with special conditions and special, a special country that allows, in which every minister will be successful, because people are active, they're responsible, they're initiative, they work in a systematic and a structured way, they they think strategically, think analytically, they're very good planners, and Ukrainian laws are very favorable to give freedom to churches to do their activities, and to people, church members go to and get engaged in politics and different social activities. But that was not so. The next slide describes the problems which at a certain stage Pastor Sunday discovered among church members. Because as he is very self-motivated, and he's always been, he works very hard on self-education, self-development, and he shared the principle of all this in a regular way, in a traditional way, on Sundays, on different leaders' meetings, when he offered teachings to leaders, to ministers, to church members, and he thought that people were already prepared to take this and use it to transform themselves, to change their personalities and grow as personality. But that was not so. Only a small percentage of all church members worked on themselves in this way. And those are the problems. We call it top 20 problems, yes.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, can we have the slides later?
We can ask Dasha.
Yeah.
She's
in charge of
she's in charge of this.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. We can just go through this very briefly. I'm not going to read the entire list. It's not interesting at this stage. For example, many people, Pastor Sunday didn't realize that many people didn't know their real life purpose, though in spite of the fact that there were lots of teachings in the church. They didn't have dreams, they didn't set goals, and they didn't have ideas about how they're going to live their lives. They didn't have desire to serve, to sacrifice, to pay the price, to grow as a minister, to serve other people. They were not able to plan and work strategically. You know, they did it from time to time, fragmentally, you know, not in a structured way. They couldn't plan their own time. They were not organized. I mean, things which are very common for people, ordinary people all over the world. So all these problems were present in Embassy of God. So this is the second part of this list. Let's go to the next slide. And the shock of the day, it was Pastor Sunday's shock of the day, that he realized that those were the problems people were facing in Embassy of God. And he realized, as the senior pastor, that he had to do something with it to help people grow as ministers and as history makers. Those who wished to do that, because we understand that it's not always the entire church. So previously, the way church was structured was very traditional. Pastor Sunday had an apostolic council who were his own home members, up to 20 people. So he was teaching them as leaders, hoping that they shared his knowledge and teaching with their 12 to 20, and then those 12 to 20 share this with their 12 to 20. You know, this hierarchy system of, this delegation and sharing and knowledge. But it didn't work, because it stopped at the level, unfortunately, it stopped at the level of the first 12, 20 people. And Pastor realized that he had to do something with it. Change the slide. So how Pastor came to the idea of the new type home groups, we call them home groups or mentorship groups. So, as I've already said, we had a regular Group 12 system in the church at that time. And the way, this idea, the time when this idea came into Pastor's mind was, it was about 2008, 2009. That was the crisis time. And that was the crisis in the church. And many people, you know, this crisis is the time when lots of inner features are revealed in our lives. And many people didn't, reveal their best qualities. And Pastor realized, that was the time when Pastor realized that he just didn't know the real situation. So crisis showed the real situation in the church with people. He thought, again, that everyone was like him. Everyone was working on himself as a personality in the way Pastor shared. Pastor was teaching us. So people, and he also realized that many people, despite the fact that pastor was participated in all night prayers, he participated in, took part in all conferences, he spoke to people every week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. In reality, many people just didn't know what kind of person he was. They knew this, this shell, he's outside, but not his inside. He himself, like as what he was inside. So he didn't. Many people didn't know his inequalities. Next, please. So it's information system by Pastor Sunday. So and he decided to do something about it, and that was, next slide, please. Personality formation system helping people to develop their personality. And this system consists of 2 fundamental major parts. One of them is formation of the character, and the second one is about social relevance of people or of church members. So how to help them to become socially relevant for the society. People who could bring something, offer something to the society, and the society would be happy to get it and use it. Next, please. So Pastor Sunday, it's a very important formula. So I can give you a minute to put it down, because this is Pastor Sunday's personal formula of success. So what does this formula say? This formula says that 10% of personal changes come through the knowledge we get. Books, trainings, seminars, workshops, all sorts of events and tools we use to get knowledge about something. 40%, our success, 40% comes from our character. The way we are, how insistent we are, how result-oriented we are, how much we are ready to, we are ready to pay the price, how much we are ready to go to the end, things like that. How much we are willing to develop, things which are about character. And 50% of our personal development comes from the environment. People which we spend most of our time, books or same trainings, but mainly people who surrounded us. 50% of our success. That's why, the Bible says about it, Dasha, как будет худое сообщество развращать? I'm not too good in English Bible. Bible. I mean the Bible verses. I'm not good in Bible verses. When God says that bad companies are corrupt, don't. Yes, yeah, that's about environment. That's about people who are surrounding us. So bad companies corrupt. Same about good companies. They help us to develop. They kind of give us insights. They give us a push to go forward, to grow. Next, please, Dasha. Dasha. Следующий. It's stuck. Sorry. So, что такое? What's? The file is too big. Maybe that's the problem. So it's coming. That's the way it's organized. You see? Those are the stairs. I haven't seen how it works on the screen. That's a kind of surprise for me. Because this is a new slide I used for this particular presentation. So here you see the steps, the stairs. A person goes up to achieve his to become a personality that can accomplish his or her calling. So, and those are the stairs we're going through in details later during today's teaching, but I would like to draw your attention that it starts with the very first step is about leaders' schools, and then books and homework, sorry, let me come up, live trainings and homeworks, then books to study and assignments on the books, then personal prayer retreats. I will talk in more details about all this. Then team of 12 to 50 people, NGOs, non-government organizations, members of the parliament. So those are the kind of levels people go up to get the full engagement in his or in their calling. So, and let's go to to the next slide. And so once pastors decided that something should be, sorry, it's okay. That something should be done about helping church members to grow as personalities, he decided to start with new type leader schools. In 2009, he organized the first, we call it First Leaders School, Leader School number 1. And it was about formation of a history maker, how to form ourselves as history makers. And it was a one-week teaching. And those, I just, maybe it would be interesting for you what was, because it's a fundamental one. It's like a number 1 leader school in the church, and people still can still listen audios and can do the assignment, and it helps them themselves to understand what kind of persons they are, what kind of personality they are, from the physical, psychological, spiritual, and social perspectives. So people had to answer, after they listened to the teachings, they had to do the home assignment and send it to the church to be checked. So the first part was about vital questions that used to be asked by Miles Monroe when he was teaching in our church about personal calling and personal purpose of life. So those were the 5 questions people had to answer to fulfill their calling. Who am I? What social roles, what functions what social roles I play, what functions I perform, what is my character, what gifts I have, what abilities I have, what was my family, where are my roots, you know, including spiritual roots. So those were the questions people had to think about maybe by fasting and maybe praying to answer in as detailed way as possible. Where am I from? Origin, including as a child of God. What do I live for? Purpose on the earth. Many of you think that those are very common questions all people have to ask. And those are, and again, very understandable that we all need to think about it. But that was not very obvious for all the church members. And they listened to the teachings, and many of them just left and didn't do their own home assignments before this new system was introduced by Pastor. So, origin, what do I live for? What can I do in life? Potential, prophecies, all these sort of things. Maybe child dreams, maybe some ideas, maybe some insights received in the past. And what can I change? What can I influence on? What can I change in my life? Let's go next slide, please. So second part of vital questions were, life is a marathon, not a sprint. Where am I going? So that was about my past and present. And now where I'm going? Where would I like to get? When and how do I want to get there? Am I moving towards in the right direction? And what is my speed? How focused am I on my purpose? What are my resources? The reason why I go into such a details about this leader school is because it's a fundamental. I'd like to re-emphasize, it's a fundamental for people who want to start, who want to go or enroll to the mentorship program with Pastor Sunday. Because they need to be kind of prepared when they come to receive assistance from Pastor in their personal development and in their development towards their calling. Next, please. Okay, third part of questions was about work on qualities of history maker's character. So, and for 6 stages of formation of a history maker. And after this week of teachings, people had to do their written test, written assignment, and within 3 weeks, do it within 3 weeks, and then send it to the church. And those who were successful in doing this test, they were enrolled to the first home groups Pastor selected from the all church members. What was new is that any church member, without any, it was not, this test was the only criteria for people to be able to join Pastor Sunday's mentorship program. And that was innovative, because before that you had to become a member of apostolic council or a leader to be able to be present at leaders' meetings. But what was new this time is that any person who wanted to Pastor Sunday to be their personal mentor could do the work and join the group. Next, please. So after this test was done, Pastor Sunday and his assistants could do kind of evaluation of what people wrote about themselves and how they described how they answered those questions, how they described themselves and their future. So he looked at the people's activity level, how active they already were, depth of their understanding, how deep was their understanding about their future and about their past, about then visioning ability. Pastor was evaluating their visioning ability, how well they were in visioning their future. Communication ability, organizational skills, how outcome-driven they were, and how much they were willing to take responsibility to do something for the society. So those were the 7. And based on that evaluation, at the very beginning, Pastor enrolled, 400 people were enrolled, and they were split in 16 groups with approximately 25 people in each. So that was at the beginning. So that's the list of the leaders' schools that Pastor then organized for the church members. So formation of history members. The second school was about strategic and constructive thinking. Strategic thinking. So it's about planning for 5 years ahead, for 10 years ahead, for more, say 20 years ahead. Also, he delivered a workshop on how to overcome crisis, because, again, I would like to re-emphasize, but that was the time when the church was going through, it was in a crisis time, and many people got a kind of frustrated. They sometimes felt lost about what to do in order to overcome this crisis. So that workshop was very helpful for them to understand what was the crisis about and what was good in crisis, and how they could use the crisis for their personal, in order to move forward and for their personal development. Then analytical and constructive thinking on why we are not great in the kingdom of God. That's a special leader school. We call it number 4. And it's a real test for many home group members, because it's huge. There are 130 questions, and each of them consists of 8 sub-questions. Wow. And in order to do it, you really need to develop a system in order to get the information and then put it in words, you know, to do it in writing. Because it covers different aspects of church and social life and personal life of people, you know. And those questions, people's attitudes, opinions, and approaches to help them to see what kind of problems they have and what they need to do to change. They work as a laser. You know, they help, they're like the X-ray. They kind of X-ray people's attitudes, opinions, and approaches to help them to see what kind of problems they have and what they need to do to change in order to be successful. So it's a kind of challenging leaders school. Number 5, formation of a history maker, the importance of honoring people, honoring parents, honoring pastors. It's a very important topic. And love for the truth. It was also very special leaders school. So that's the time. That's how much time is kind of broke down in Pastor Sunday's personality formation system. So 20% of time is dedicated to live trainings. Once a month, home group members gather. Pastor does teaching, and then we communicate, counteract. Pastor asks questions. People share their opinions. They share their challenges, and all together we hear pastors' advice and recommendations on how to overcome things. And 80% of time is dedicated to home assignments, and it's a very important approach because I don't know what was your how school life is organized in your societies, but in Ukraine, say 80% of time is dedicated to live trainings, so-called, you know, when teachers teach us, and only 20% is dedicated to home assignments. It's just when we go home, do assignment, it's just kind of master the knowledge we receive at school. We don't do any independent training. So that's why in our society, we very rarely have this habit and skill of self-education, you know. Very few people can make themselves work, read books, do analysis, go to trainings. It's a very small amount of people. Next, please. So Pastor Sunday started his home groups in 2009, and currently he personally trains 500 people every month. He doesn't have 16 groups anymore. He has 3 big groups. Newcomers, people who's been home group members for 2 to 4 years, and then the upper level is so-called Golden Reserve or Golden Fund, which comprises people who are already social activists, politicians, businessmen, and have about 50 leaders in their home groups, and they're very active in the society. So the pastor offers them a special training. It's more like recommendations, consulting, advices, and so on. So the age is between 14 to 75. We have quite many ladies aged around 70, ladies and gentlemen aged around 70, 75 years. And many of them are quite active. They learn languages. Some of them go to the university, become university students. Sometimes they can be an example to younger people. That's the geography, but it's not a full list. I don't see the USA here and Japan, and probably some other countries are missing, but still quite a lot. In addition to those 500 home group members train themselves around 6,000 people monthly, because they have their home groups. So Pastor Sunday's home group is a personal formation system. So it helps display vanity, think about the goal, mobilize all abilities, gifts, and talents to achieve the goal, teaches us to live for solving problems, and overcome difficulties and see hidden opportunities, and so on, and pay the price, which is important. What is important is that people who become home group members, in addition to be present at gatherings, and in addition to reading books, they have to fulfill a lot of so-called social assignments. They have to establish their own leaders group. First of all, they all have to have 3 people minimum when they enroll. Then, during the first year, they have to increase this number to 12. So they have to have their own 12 home group members. Because all they receive from pastor, they have to share with them. Because they have to grow as leaders. And leaders are those who have disciples, who have other people. So, next please. Those are the topics of Pastor Sunday's teachings for home groups. Accepting responsibility is a measure of greatness. Always be result-oriented. Become the best in your field. Build up faith in yourself, and so on. Life management, I mean, discipline, he gives teachings on self-discipline, self-education, personal growth, how to develop your will, how to develop your character, how to be a strategic planner, how to maximize opportunities, and how to reach this society. Next, please. So, books. So after each meeting, students receive their home assignment to read 2 to 4 books a month. We read the books by Pastor Sunday and books published by the University of Life. It's a new Pastor Sunday's project, and those are the books. The University of Life publishes books covering the topics of Pastor Sunday teaching. So it's very convenient because you take the book and you can read about how to use your energy, how to become цельная личность. Different topics. You saw the list already. Next, please. So one of the most important assignments each person has to do monthly is personal prayer retreat. So every home group member has to spend 3 days a month for personal prayer retreat. That's the time when we retreat from the society, from the families, from our works, from our friends and everything. And it's a solitude. That's the time which we've only spent with God. We pray, we worship God, we read books, we do home assignment, but in a solitude, solitude manner. So when nobody disrupts us, when we have only use internet for gathering information and for getting knowledge on the topic we work on, minimum 3 days per month. Pastor Sanders recommends 3 consecutive days. That's some people, second, third year students are advised to spend at least 7 days in retreat, at least once every 6 months. 7 days. So it's a good opportunity to hear God. It's like 10% of our time we give to God. And Pastor Sunday believes, and I confirm that belief, that without this, it's impossible to move. It's impossible to grow. Because in this solitude, I received great ideas. I heard my calling when I spent 3 days with God. I couldn't even imagine what kind of calling it was. You know, I didn't even expect God would want me to be there. I thought I would be a teacher, or I would be a coach or a mentor for other people. I will work with young people. God said, no, you have another calling. And I said, yes, yes, I had this desire in my heart, but I just neglected it. And that happened when I spent during those 3 days. So next is the next stage is, or the next tool is the kind of trainings you are undertaking now. It's the HMT with Pastor Sunday. And that's another very interesting instrument, which is very difficult to stand. Because again, we call it retreat. Because we leave our families and come here and spend 3 days with Pastor Sunday and with our mates, listening to Pastor Sunday doing home assignment here, sometimes in a very, you know, uncomfortable conditions. And you know, when you have to share a room with 2, 3, 4 other people, you don't only share a room, you also share a bathroom, and you come to the canteen where other people cook for you, and sometimes it's not a kind of food you would prefer, you know, and those 3 days are very good to understand, I mean, to see what kind of person you are when you are in a, how do you say it, in a confined condition, you know, in a confined environment, when you don't have access to the things where you are used to, you know. It's just, it's how quickly you get angry about things, about people, about the arrangements, you know. It's a very, very good instrument. I learned a lot about myself in March 2010 when I took part in such a retreat. I realized that I was not very patient, you know. I was very, you know, many things irritated me, and I was very much surprised to see that, because I thought I was not like that. I was a good Christian who could be patient with other people. No, I was not that good. Next, please. So those are the type of trainings, retreats we call them, Pastor Sunday offers to church members. For men, for gentlemen, levels 1 and 2. For women, for married couples, for teenagers, for young people, healing retreat for those who are engaged in healing ministry, how to bring people to Christ, for those who want to know their own calling. Some people also want this retreat. They want to spend more time on trying to understand what kind of people, what is their calling, for future reformers and for worship groups. I think some other topics are missing. How to think, how to always be here and now. It's very important. How to remain focused, how to be focused, not to distract on other things. Next, please. So that's the instrument. Another instrument, retreats with assignments, with when people come here and get knowledge about, receive information and teaching on those topics. Social relevance. You remember that one of the slides, which described the 2 modules that were fundamental parts of this personality formation system. One of them was about character formation, and the second one was about social relevance, to help people to become socially relevant. So one of the requirements and one of the steps that help people to become social relevant is being a leader for a team of from 12 to 50 people. So each home group member has to be a leader of their own home group. From 12 to 50. By the end of the first year, they have to have 12 people. And then 50 people at the level when they become members of the Golden Fund. That's the third group. group. Next, please. So, NGO, every person who wants to be influential in this society has to either establish an NGO themselves or have to do it together with other people as a co-founder. In Ukraine, NGOs are very influential, can be a very influential tool of influence because, first of all, because every government agency, central government and local government agency, is supposed to have a kind of council they normally help to establish a council comprising NGOs and civil society institutions like charity funds, some other forms, some other organizations comprising common people from the society, from the community, and those people they get together, they generate advice and recommendations to the corresponding central government or local government body on their policy, on their activities, so they can be very influential. So it's one of the tools for home group members to become socially relevant. Next, please. So members of the parliament. So people have to think about becoming members of the local, national parliament, but at the beginning of the parliaments of their local communities. So the parliament is, in their local communities, and the national parliament is a legislative body. So that's the body that takes or adopts laws and regulations. So in order to be able to influence legislative processes in the society, people have to be a part of this process. So members of the parliament and advisors to members of the parliaments can be a very influential people to do that. Next, please. And I think that during this training you will hear a lot from people Pastor is going to invite about how they do it as home group members. So they will tell you about their NGOs and charity funds, and they will tell you about how they reach the society through that instrument. And it will be interesting. So I advise you to keep this instrument in mind. When people say, we have this organization, we have a charity fund, and with this organization we do this, it's a part of the personality formation system by Pastor Sunday. Leader of a political party's youth wing. Every party has a kind of youth wing that comprises young people which are kind of a future for that party. So as our church, many of our church members are young people, so they can use this opportunity to become to grow as a politician and to become influential through this instrument. Next, please. Head of a party unit. Many parties consist of party units comprising members of the same locality or the same businesses, or some like 3 to 50 people. So in order to gain influence in the party and then influence in the society, people can become, can join a party, choose a party, join a party, become a head of a party unit, which may comprise members of their home group. So they can grow together as politicians, because, you know, political parties, they like when you don't come on your own, but you also bring people to join the party, and they like it. Next, please. So another tool which may help us to be influential, and this tool is university master's degree or PhD programs, because particularly PhD in Ukraine allows people to teach at the universities, and when they teach students, they can influence those students' life and raise them as leaders and invite them to become members of their NGOs in order to carry out social activities. So, and PhD helps us to also, as I'm doing my PhD in public administration, I know how much it helps to develop my brains, to become more intelligent and better understands the processes in the country. Next, please. Studying foreign languages is very relevant for Ukraine, particularly English. Unfortunately, not all schools offer good language programs that allow people to speak fluent English or fluent language. And parents invest a lot in teaching language, teaching languages to their kids. However, older people, they're not so good in English. But Pastor Sundays insist, and this is a home assignment, that by the end of the first year, people have to report that they take language classes. And it's a must. So all the things I'm telling you about is a must for home group members. And frankly speaking, without this requirement, many of us, most of us, would never do this. I would never take my PhD program, never. I didn't even think about it. After Pastor said, you have to do, I started thinking, I chose the university, I chose the topic I wanted to work on, and I feel happy now. You know, before that requirement, I didn't even think that I should do that. Yes, personal websites. Relevance is also about having a personal website, blogs, page in the social networks where we can share our knowledge, we can share information, we can invite people to our groups and speak to them and communicate them and become friends with them. And it's also a very important tool on how to work in internet, how to reach people in internet. So, the next one. And, by the way, Dasha, можно назад вернуться? By the way, it's also an assignment, and it's also a must. And by the end of the first year, every person, every home group member has to choose 3 topics for their blogs, websites, and groups in social network. And those 3 topics can be topics which are consistent with your calling. As we develop in our calling, for example, if it's a calling of a businessman or a calling of a pastor, we have our websites and blogs, and we share the information concerning these calling. I mean, business information, how businesses work or whatever. And we invite people, and when we organize a group, we can share with them the values which are important for businessmen, or the values which are important for politicians. For example, I have a blog where I share the information about, from the books I read, and many books, they are written by Christian scientists and researchers, and a lot of information is very relevant from the Christian point of view. And I'm happy to share the titles of the books and the pieces of information describing things which are related to public administration, political processes in the country, and things like that. Next, please. By the way, yeah, my question is, are you okay, guys? Is everything fine? Because sometimes I feel like you're not falling asleep. No. Is everything clear for you? Do you see the system? My idea is that I would like to present a system for you so that you could see the entire picture, not just separate pieces. So we're still talking about the mentorship program for the church members, which Pastor Sunday offers. Yes, please.
So far, I feel like not going back to England has
feel like staying here.
You're not alone, I should say. You're not alone.
Yes, because we are just wasting our time in England and
I
not doing anything.
I think, Dasha, can you hear me? I think after I finish, and after we have a small discussion and questions and answers session, I think we will ask Dasha if there is time, but if not after this session, but later during today or maybe tomorrow, she will make a small presentation of Pastor Sunday's online mentorship program for English speakers. For English speakers. Does anyone? Yeah, the ladies are part of this program already, so you can have a word with them.
He's part of it.
Huh?
We are both part of it.
Ah, you're part of it. Ah,
We will talk a little bit later. We'll talk about mentorship, online mentorship, and another opportunity that we call follow-up,
yes.
which is actually a program for HMT graduates that practically consists of the things that you hear now.
Because you're not alone, and many people have shared this, have expressed this interest, and that's why Pastor Sunday have prepared an offer to you, so have something to offer to you so that you don't feel lost after this course, this training ends. So, and you remember those steps we saw at the very beginning. So that's the top step, and it's about full engagement in one's calling. So all the things we were talking about are about the area you have that relates to your calling, you see? So all those blogs, all those political parties, NGOs, they more or less relate to the sphere of your calling. You see, if you're called to work with young children, so that's why with young people, you set up an NGO with that addresses the issues of youth. People who are called to work with elderly people, they set up NGOs that offer services to elderly people, and that NGO helps them to reach that segment of the society. You understand what I mean? Yes? So, and by doing this, by fulfilling all these assignments, at a certain stage, people reach their top level of this mentorship program, which is about full engagement in one's calling, as a pastor, as a missionary, as a politician, as a businessman, as social activist, and etc. So, and of course, a part of this mentorship program is about accountability, feedback, and control system. And we all have to do those assignments. It's not enough just to go and do things. We have to report during our meetings or in a writing. We report to Pastor Sunday about the progress we make when we fulfill those, when we do those assignments. So, and we have a control system. And as at the beginning, I introduced myself as a former senior coordinator of Pastor Sunday's home groups, and we have a pool of coordinators that. So those 500 people are split into smaller groups, and all this group has its own coordinator that keep in touch with the group, helping people with doing their assignments, giving advice, recommendations, helping them to contact with Pastor Sunday to ask questions about the best way of doing those assignments and so on. So that, and the control system is that by certain time they have to do their assignment and report in writing about their progress. And unfortunately, people who do not fulfill those, do not meet the requirements, don't do assignments, they have to leave home groups, and this happens. Sometimes people have to go. Those who, so what is special about this program is that people who join it, they have to change their priorities. Many people, before they start, before they become students, they were more focused on their own issues, on the issues of their families, of the places, people they worked with. So they were more focused on their personal issues. When they become home group students, their focus changes, and they have to think more about how to change other people's lives, how to help people in the society to become Christians, to change their lives, to change their values, and to live a prosperous life from the point of view of Christianity. So, home groups, very often we have to choose between whether to do things we'd like to do for ourselves, or to go and do something for the community. And home group students here, they learn how to make ourselves to go and serve others, how to think about others. So it's one of the best things we study, we learn, and we master. So I'm finished, a bit ahead of the time, but thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, yes, please.
I would like to ask about the 3-day retreat every month.
Yes.
How operationally does that work? Do you sort of stay at home, or take a trip to another town, stay in a hotel, or find a woodland so you can do it moderately and hear God better?
First, let me share my own experience. First of all, I prefer to fast during those 3 days. And of course, everything is very personal, and you know yourself better. For me, it's better not to stay at home because of a lot of distracted things. Telephones, my family, cooking, cleaning. Well, not cleaning, but not that. It's not that bad. But still, home is a place where you feel comfortable, and you are intended to relax and let yourself, feel like not to read, to go to bed earlier, to wake up later. So I prefer to go away. So, and I tell all my families in advance. My husband and Dasha, I tell them in advance that I'm not going to be at home on those days. Thanks God, in summer I have a small summer house. So I go outside Kiev and I stay there for 3 days. I bring my computer with me. Before I leave, I make a plan. I consult with God, and I kind of make a provisional list of the issues or topics I would like to study, or I would like to dig in during that retreat. So what kind of prayers, of course I take the Bible with me, because I understand that I will have to follow Holy Spirit, because it always happens that I have one sort of plans, but then for half of the day He offers another topic for me unexpectedly. So I'm prepared that God may say something or point out on something else compared to what I prepared. So I read books, and I spend 3 days. I can afford that. Many people, not many, but some people cannot afford 3 consecutive days. So what Pastor Sunday allows to do is just, he says that it's better to spend 3 days consecutively, but at the same time, if you can't find 3 days, so you can take 2 + 1 or 1 + 1 + 1 during 1 month.
And for a lot of us, I believe all over the world now, the mobile phone has become your best friend and your alter ego. So do you, because if you have your mobile phone with you, because you said your laptop, I can understand you do internet search, so do you leave your mobile phone at home?
I take it with me just because I'm not that used to, I mean, I'm not that linked with my mobile. I don't receive so many calls that they can bother me or they can distract me. But of course, I think you can try without mobile, and it's better, you know. I remember my first 2 retreats with God, and that was a very special experience, because when I started first time, and I didn't have access to internet, to networks, I mean, to mobile, I felt like, you know, kind of addicted. So it's probably what you're talking about. So I felt that my hands were like, and I said, no, I'm not here for that. So it's like, like radio. When you search for the wave, for the program, you go through different noises, like something like. I had that feeling in my brain, you know, in my mind. So I had to clean it up, and it took some time to clean up my mind before I could concentrate on God, you know. And at the beginning, it took me 1 day, and for the other 2 days, it was not that easy either. But at least it was much better. But still, I felt like I was reading, and then suddenly I thought, what am I doing? I'm thinking about something else. So that's why 3 consecutive days matter, you know. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. So, but that's very important. Helps a lot to have a good communication with God. Sorry, yes?
Personal question, so what do you do now? What's your calling?
My calling is politics.
Oh.
It's politics, yes. I'm a vice president of an NGO, which we recently established with one of home group members. She is a member of Golden Fund, and her calling is energy sector, alternative energy. And it's a very important issue for Ukraine, because I don't know how much you know about Ukrainian situation, but we are very much dependent on Russian gas. And we buy natural gas from Russia. We buy a lot. And the prices, previously the natural gas price was very heavily subsidized by the government, but now upon requirement of the IMF, this price is going to be raised to the cost recovery level, which is quite high. It's $200 multiplied by 24 hryvnia, so it's a lot. $200 per 1 BCM, billion square meter, 1,000 square cubic meters, so which is a lot. Many people cannot afford it. But unfortunately, alternative sources of energy are not very much developed in Ukraine. International donors spend a lot on development of alternative sources of energy, but unfortunately, our consumption still is only 2 or 3% of the total consumption of energy in Ukraine. So we're working on that.
Does Russia sell you gas with this war? They sell gas to you?
Yes.
But more
Yes.
expensive?
No, it's now, praise Lord, it's not as expensive as it used to be, because previously we paid 100 more than the European countries. Now, with assistance from the international organizations, the price, Russia had to reduce the price, but it's still very high because people are not paid in dollars, people are paid in hryvnia, and with the recent depreciation of hryvnia, 3-time depreciation, gas is not affordable for many Ukrainian households. And our intention is, her intention, because energy is her intention, it's her area, and we want to lobby the idea of using more alternative sources, like biogas, So when you know what is good with this NGO, because we have a good cooperation with the International Chamber of Commerce. They have an energy board. We have a good cooperation with the Research Institute, and particularly with the person who chairs the institute, and he's an academician, a very knowledgeable man. And without this NGO and without this work, I would never, ever been able to connect with this person. And we meet with him now on a quite a regular basis, and I receive so much useful information from him and lots of help, you know. And this idea unites us, you know, and it's a very good possibility to get in touch with people you would never even think of without the NGO.
Yeah. So from us, from our standpoint, because I believe we all have dreams, and you know, when you look at all the program that you showed us, it look wonderful, beautiful. It just make us want to stay here. But I believe like there's a price to pay. So according to your own experience, what was the most difficult thing for you to do once you decide to engage yourself in this program?
For me, I will tell you. I'm an English interpreter, and I'm currently interpreting for the International Monetary Fund, and they pay very well, and they pay in dollars. And the most difficult thing for me is not to sign a contract with them for the next 12 days and to go and do something as an NGO vice president instead. So the highest price for me I pay is the price of lost opportunities, if you know what it is. Yeah. So I make myself. And of course, without retreats with God, I would never be able to do that, because I would never be able to prioritize the things in my life. So I know that for the present, of course, another contract, because I have short-term contracts with them. It's not a full-time job. I'm a freelance interpreter, but they're my main client, and they are very active in Ukraine, and I work for them up to 20 days a month, you know, and they pay daily. And so it's a lot of money, particularly in Ukraine. And for me, the highest price is just not to go into contract for example, for 3, for 5, for 12 days. So that's the highest price. And I do it deliberately. I have to, because this is my future, and this is my future with God.
You're having more
yes.
treasure in heaven.
Yes, yes. Maybe I don't see it like that, but I understand. So for me, it's, you know, the motivation is that that's what God wants me to do. I don't know what would be the treasure in the heaven, but I don't think about that. But I think that God wants me to be there, and I know that I can be useful for Him. So that's the highest price. So, your question, please.
Okay. First of all, thank you for helping me still internalize the concept of calling. You know, when he asked us to call it, previously we are concentrating on the fivefold ministry, you know, preacher.
Yes, yes, yes.
Just a politics, energy. You know, it will take me some, a bit of time to really grasp that, because I'm getting rid of all this.
It's difficult because you understand that all over the world politics is seen to be a kind of dirty area, not for Christians, where it's difficult to, to stay pure, you know, to follow with values, you know, to preserve your values. It's also probably another challenge.
And secondly, because of this presentation, thank you, because I've been concentrating on taking on a PhD, and I've been, since the beginning of this year, I've been procrastinating, you know. Maybe I don't need it, maybe I'm wasting time. But you've opened my eyes to realize that personal development is still needed, you know.
Yes, yes,
and
of course.
in order for me to be effective, I need more knowledge. So thank you so much, because my community retreat has really now refocused my thinking.
I'm happy to hear that.
And thirdly is help me, because I've been through History Makers Bible School, but since then I've been starting the retreats, but I'm not yet, I don't feel fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when I go there, because of the exhaustion of all the whole month, I'm sleeping the whole day. I'm there to be with God, but I'm just exhausted. I remember the first day I'm sleeping, you know, because I've not been. Then I'm taking time to really switch off, because you can be in a retreat, in a hotel.
Yes.
Your mind is in Africa. I'm thinking about my project. Are these people doing this? I'm thinking about my assignment, the tasks at work. It takes a lot of time to really switch off. So what's the secret? I want to reach a level where I come out and I'm saying, yeah, I've really been on Jesus' shoulders, and I have not yet reached there.
First of all, you shouldn't accuse yourself for sleeping for the first day, because physically you need that. I remember my very first pastor, when I joined Embassy of God, I had my pastor Igor, who was also teaching us about how to fast, how to pray, how to retreat, to have this prayer retreat, even before Pastor, because he was a very good disciple of Pastor Sunday. So he was teaching us about this prayer retreat, and he gave us the list of the things we can do. It was a provisional list, of course, because every person has a full list of my own. I have a list of my own now, because I know my interests and my priorities now. But first, the second thing he said, what people normally do during the prayer retreat, first, they have a good sleep. And it's difficult, and he is right, because it's difficult to be focused on God if your body is exhausted, if your mind is exhausted. It's like it's a torture rather than a prayer. You know, when you push yourself and you accuse yourself, because no, you have to. First of all, you need to, to satisfy this need for a good rest. So you have a rest, and then you wake up in a good shape, or in a better shape than before, and then you try to concentrate on God. What helps me is a good worship. I'm just worshiping. It's one thing. But before that, it's a good prayer in tongues. Like very powerful, until you feel that your mind is more or less cleared up.
Yeah.
And then you start. And while you pray in tongues, you think about God. You think about your future communication. You set up this goal. You know, you set up this goal for this particular retreat. I'm going to be with you. That's, and you pray in tongues. You you go through, you push yourself through this, those destructive things, through this wall of everyday life, of routines, Like you break through, and then you're like in the space, open space with them. So good prayer in tongues. And every time when Pastor Sunday comes and the spiritual atmosphere is not quite favorable to good communication, he starts meetings with very good prayer in tongues, and it changes things. And of course, it doesn't mean that you will not have problems with this for the rest for the other 2 days, But sometimes when you feel that you are somewhere else, make yourself come back. And if it's necessary, start praying again. Worship God. If you're tired, go and do some sleeping. Because you need to be in a good shape to hear God. You are there just to hear Him. Of course, we have a provisional list of the topics, we have the books, we're prepared. But if He wants to say something special, which we didn't expect, Let him do it. We're prepared. We're prepared. Good praying tongues. To get rid of all distractions. Yes. Is that all?
Question.
Yes. Yes, please.
Thanks for the teaching.
Welcome.
I was discussing with my wife. They said a lot of people said I'm mental. That something is wrong with me. That how can I be preaching about Jesus Christ? And I'm telling Christians go into politics, go into this. So I feel really encouraged and also happy that I wasn't mental. And see you giving your own examples. For instance, I shared a bit yesterday. 10 years ago, Pastor Sunday spoke to me in Israel. 2007, he spoke to me again. So when I got back home, compared with what the Spirit of God told me, I went back to school. I'm doing my master's now. And I also discovered that what I am teaching is going to be better in the university situation. Professors sit down under me and listen to me.
Yes.
But I also discovered that the time they give me, compared to when I have students under me, it's easier to influence them. So I had to now decide to go into teaching. So I'm happy that if I am mad, then you're also mad here. Because
You're not
this
mad.
is the Spirit of God. So I'm really encouraged.
Oh,
I think it will help my wife also to be able to stand better
wonderful,
with me.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So, most grateful.
You know what is special? Because I'm now interpreting for the IMF, but previously I was the project coordinator for different EU-funded projects, funded by the European Union. And, you know, for me, it was a very good... The reason why... I'm telling now about why I support this idea, because it is proved by my personal experience. When you go out of the you go beyond the church, you have an opportunity to meet, and you, for example, that was my business activity, but still, you have an opportunity to meet different people that would never go to the church. And I remember once I prayed for one quite elderly expert who had a problem with his knee, and I prayed, and when he came back, he said, "Look, what did you do?" Because I prayed and I put the anointment oil on his knee, and call it compress. So he left the office with it. I said, very next day, it was over. What did you do? And we prayed with him. Just that particular, maybe it's one person, it's not the whole stadium, but you know, maybe that's the person God wanted us to achieve, to reach, you know, through, which I would never do if I were just in the church waiting for him to come and repent, you know, come, we invite. No, I go out there. The same with NGOs. People, you know, I meet different people through this, you know, through our activities with the NGO. And those are the people who have so many problems and troubles. And we become friends because we never share with God, with them immediately, you know. First of all, we try to become friends. We try to build very good relations, relations of trust, when they trust us. And once we do it, they start sharing so many problems, and we just listen. And then we give advice, and then say, "Look, let me pray for you. Let me pray for you." And people, okay, because they know me as a person. They already trust. And they trust, not because I'm a Christian, not because I'm from Embassy of God, not because they are members of my home group, but because we do things together. He is with his NGO, I'm with my NGO. And it's just, we've already built this bridge between us. And he can open, and he can share. And he can say, okay, go on, wonderful. And they say, thank you. People appreciate that. Thank you. And then they say, oh, such a relief. I feel so comfortable. I feel like I took off my burden, you know. So it's a very, very good way of reaching people. So I'm sure you will be using it. And we will hear your stories and your... Yep.
I just want to add to what, yes, what's your name? Isaac. To Mr. Isaac, I don't want to call you daddy today. So what Mr. Isaac just said, I think the church didn't just understand the concept of maybe Christian going into politics, you know, because we're doing a program in our local church, and a brother asked a question that, is it okay for us to go into politics? And the big pastor stood up and said, no, you don't go into politics. And that day I felt like throwing up, because I've been to History Maker Bible School in London then, so I just felt like, wow, even this man, he doesn't understand. A lot of people are there, they are going to go home with that mindset. That's why the fact that they are in the UK, you know, and the same in Nigeria, the same everywhere. So I think the church just needs deliverance.
My reply is the following. I can take Angela Merkel, you know the lady. She is Vice Chancellor of German Chancellor. And she positions herself as a Christian. Her father was a pastor. She goes, or doesn't go, but it's still, she says she is Lutheran church member. She belongs to the priest parish. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a big discussion in the German society about the kind of invasion of Muslims, you know, this recent situation in Europe. And many Germans started complaining because Germany is a very comfortable country, quite good country, and very attractive for immigrants. And she replied to some complaints of the German society members. They said, oh, so they complained about so many Muslims invading Germany, changing their, influencing their culture. You know what she said? She said, if you don't want Muslims to change your culture, you'd better go to the church more often than you do now. Nobody in the society complained about this statement of hers because she was a very successful chancellor that helped Germany become even more prosperous than it was before, you know. Nobody said, it's very Christian, you know, she shouldn't, I mean, at least not publicly, she shouldn't say that because we're a free society, we can choose the religion, we can choose not to be religious at all, you know. Nobody said that because they said, go to the church. In Australia, Prime Minister, who is the head, they cancelled all the gay marriages. They said, no. They're not valid any longer.
Tony Abbott.
Because Tony Abbott, yes, because he positions himself as a Christian.
So one Muslim culture, it is not allowed in Australia.
Yes. They say if you don't, it's a Christian society. He stated it up openly. It's a Christian society, and if you don't like our culture, you can choose another country. He said that openly because he's a Christian. And he has this valuable, I mean, he's valued in this society, he's respected in this society, and he can afford himself saying that, you know. And nobody in this society is furious about what is he doing, how he dare say that, you know. Yes, he said it's a Christian society. Tony, not Tony, the UK Prime Minister.
David Cameron.
Cameron, he spoke in a church, and he spoke about Christian. Yes, we are Christian nations, and this is in.
I'm sorry if I interject. I beg to differ. He's a spineless Christian because he has had more erosion of Christian values in the little time he's been there than any other prime minister in the UK.
Okay, then he's not a good example. Not a good example, but at least let's imagine if it was not Cameron, but one of you in that position. Can you imagine? You could say anything.
If you, I don't know, since you're talking about UK politics, the UK has been the center of revival of Christianity, King
Yes.
James and everything.
Anglican Church.
Anglican Church. If you look at the history of the UK now, there has never been a time under a prime minister that archbishops have had to write openly in the newspaper to disagree with his policies. They've done it 4 times in his administration. Never before in the history of UK.
That's true.
Now you've seen the news articles. They disagree with almost everything he does. But when he needs the power, he goes to church and tells them. That's
I would clap for him. Hey.
that's a popular man called Archbishop of York.
Yes.
He's an African guy, John Santamo. He's supposed to be in the hierarchy of the Anglican Church, I think number 2 or number 3 in the UK. He doesn't get invited to Downing Street anymore because he had actually told the Prime Minister many times where to go. Just like you've been telling the politicians in Nigeria. Sir.
What really saddens me about the UK as well is, just listen to what he's saying now, is the country was founded on Christian principles. Sorry, the country was founded on Christian principles, but over the years they've lost those principles.
We.
Well, I don't count myself included. You know, they've lost those principles, the fact of the matter is this: if this wife, if I was in politics, I'm not definitely, that's not my fair, but if I was, I would vote to take the word great out of Great Britain unless we return back to our principles. Because that what made Britain great was those principles, which they've abdicated from.
Yes.
See, this is why I thanked her for encouragement and then what I heard yesterday. See, if you do not continue, like about 20 years ago, I told my friends in US that I didn't like going to US. From 1979, Kenneth Hagin or Robert invited us as young men from Nigeria to US. And I always tell them that I like the Americans, but I don't like their way of life. You know. Now, the way God moved from Great Britain, the moment the British community said, we are no longer defend our faith, or defend our faiths, greatness left. Now, America became the world police because they say in God we trust. The moment they say in God's we trust, God lifted his grace. And now God is expecting the Africa, Isaiah 19. All right? So, if we in Africa that have not even become civilized don't maintain the relationship we have with God, we become evilized, and his presence also denied. So the problem in Britain is that they left the greatness of God. Now why I'm standing here is that in Africa, in Nigeria and other parts of Africa, we need to soak ourselves in the Lord. Then we need to also build structure that will sustain this. For instance, some people said, are you a pastor? Are you a businessman? Are you a politician? Who ordained you? Where is your pulpit? I tell them I have pulpit everywhere. The church I'm worshiping, I went to that church January 1986. I think I preached for the first time about 4 or 5 years ago. I never fought with anybody over pulpit. But the issue is that from the founder of the ministry to the youngest, I counsel them and I mentor their children. So what I'm saying is if we can create a structure, for instance, you have in Nigeria you have PFN, you have CAN. It's a political structure. So why don't you allow yourself to be mentored, then collapse into the political system like she's saying. And then if I come, I bring you up, we expand, we project one of us up. He takes over the leadership position and you're helping. For instance, the governor of Benin State now is a wonderful child of God. But he's struggling to take decisions because he's surrounded by people who don't operate biblical principles. So sometimes he he wants to buy a car for 3.5 million. They say, no, this man supported our election. Give it to him for 7.5 million naira. Or because the church said it's a dirty game. But I disagree. I said politics is a game being played by dirty people. So if clean people go into politics, so what she has taught us now is that we have to go back. For instance, we plan to set up an NGO. They said, why don't you start a church? I don't know what they mean by the NGO. To me is my church. Because that's the pulpit I'm going to reach out to people. So if we can experience the paradigm shift to think that here is where the church, we think the big structure is the church. We don't know that this is the church. And then we don't also know that our work is in the marketplace. For instance, Abuja, I don't know whether many of you know that. Abuja was built and designed for Freemason and occultism. And you see, most of the buildings you have there, the public buildings you have there are Muslims were sent from Saudi Arabia, many places, who came and worked as laborers to write Quranic verses and put in the foundations of those houses. How many Christians would think it's worth being a laborer to do something to witness to people like that? So, in essence, we need to, those of you who are pastors, you need to a little bit introduce politics as Bible study. I come with another thing. Because we teach about money, we teach about this, but we don't teach politics. So we don't even, in fact, you mention politics, they are just where you are. So we need to introduce politics, because of what she's saying, what we learn, we need to introduce politics as Bible study, so that we can take biblical principles and apply in politics. So I'm happy listening to you. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to share with you. I wish you to succeed using this presentation and the ideas I've shared. So I'll be happy when this works in your life, because my understanding is that one of the reasons is why politics is a dirty thing is because Christians don't want to go there. They say, no, it's dirty. It's dirty. It means there is no light there. Who are the ones who have to bring light there? Who are the candles? Who are the candles for the world? Politics is also part of our world, and the light is also needed there. Yes, please.
I don't want to sound like a devil's advocate here with politics, and first of all, I know you were looking when Saito talked about PFN and CAN. Those are two organizations in Nigeria that ideally could have been one. One is called Christian Association of Nigeria, the other one is called Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, and you think, why the same brethren? But I thought I'd explain that. But you were talking about the governor that couldn't do things because the people that elected him. And that, to me, is a problem with politics. Sometimes you find that you are dining with the devil in politics. And now the question is, how long does your spoon has to be? Does your spoon? Because when you want to dine with the devil, you must dine with a long spoon. And the reason why I'm saying that is, for a long time in the UK, in my town, the head of one of the political parties is somebody I know very well. And he's always said, oh, come and join us. And on a few occasions, I went to those meetings. The reason why he was calling me became apparent. There is this thing in the UK, and I have to say it, sometimes it's a numbers game. They want to show that, oh, we are multiracial, we are all inclusive. No, we are not just white, we've got this black man with us. So we are not, you understand? So that was his reason for actually inviting me. So when I went to that meeting, I saw another guy who they were trying to push to be a councillor. And I'd known him before, he's Nigerian, very, very Christian-like. But I noticed when they discuss things, he's always quiet. And I was, and now, and he was like, So when I asked him later, I said, can't you see? All of them know where they are going. They know what they want. You are just a number. And then I thought, that is certainly against my conscience if I'm just going to be there to be seen and not heard. And the funniest thing is that the average politician really, when he gets into politics, does not really care about people. They care about two things: electoral cycle. What can we do in 4 years that will make us to come back into government? And what can I get out of this? So for me personally, I actually walked away, which is, I know you probably would have said I should stay, but I actually walked away because I thought I can do much better in what I'm doing without getting into politics and compromising my standards.
Sorry, man, before you say something. It's good. From what you said, why I like this HMT is that a lot of areas have been having headache. I'm grasping some things from yesterday, all right? What I need to do. Our problem as Christians is that we always, we have been given this mindset of testimony. Oh, I just prayed, I beat the contract, $200 million contract, praise the Lord. You see, we are not concerned about this menial, little beginning stuff, starting from the beginning. When I counsel young men and women, they said, girls said, I want to marry a man that is made. I said, if you marry a man that is made, you're going to meet a problem that is made. It's a ready-made problem. You see, it's a ready-made problem. But if you marry a man or a woman that you build your home together, you build from one brick to a whole house. Now, our problem in the church is this. Like I said yesterday, we've been given this American capitalist Rockefeller mindset. Just slot a card into the machine, you get $1 million. That's not how it's done. We must learn to build. See, PFN is an arm of CAN. There are 5 blocks of CAN. Now, what I'm telling them is this. What made me, I became bankrupt. What made me, I became bankrupt from 2011 is because I sponsored the political party. 2003, I tried that. 2006-07, I was silent because people were not for. But 2010-11, I mopped out everything I had. Then I laid a structure of Labour Party in the 23 local governments. So I spoke to the church. Now, what we should do is, as you teach Bible study, politics as Bible study, people now begin to discover their calling in the area of politics. If, for instance, like Abraham Lincoln, you start from county, it doesn't work. You go to the House of Assembly, but as you're going, you see you are expanding. You're getting more people. Are you hearing me? You get more people. Yeah. The awareness is coming. By the time you get to the next election, from 10 you may have 100 people. Okay? Now, when we start like that, it will become easy for us to create a template. But if you walk away, somebody else will come and stay there and make a wrong choice. So let's develop, for instance, I have a 5 years prayer plan for myself, for the young men I'm going to raise. I'm going to be introducing them into politics. Politics that is born out of faith in God for service. In Nigeria, we don't have politicians who come for service. They come to be served.
Yes.
All right?
Same as here. Same as here.
Okay. They don't come to serve. So when they see you coming to serve, yes. I'll give you an example. During 2011 election, the governorship candidate in Labour Party came and the chairman said, in politics, we don't tell the truth. And I told him, in politics, I tell the truth.
Yes, yes, yes.
He said, why? I said, okay, I'll tell you. We had a meeting and we were to give them 200,000 naira for transport. He said, what we do in politics, we give it to the chairman will take his own. I told him, no. The chairman is here with me. I've given him transport money, I've fueled his car. These people are coming for. So I stood up and I announced the money. And they were angry. Now, but today, if you say you're looking for somebody who tells the truth, say, go and meet that man. So the church must please build the blocks of political structure.
Step by step.
Step by step.
It doesn't happen within one day
No,
or
no,
within
no,
a
no.
year or two.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes years.
Exactly.
But maybe, I mean, maybe there are other people there who would support you.
Exactly.
I think
But they just keep silence, you know,
I
because
think I'll put up my hand and say politics is not my calling.
maybe. But my suggestion, but before you say that, I would suggest you spending 3 days with God, just to make sure that He supports this opinion of yours.
You are affected by politics.
Exactly. I mean, the way you talk, you know how things.
Excuse me, affected.
You know the funny thing is this. You walk out of that place. An idiot, I'm sorry to use the word, an idiot sits there, makes a law that binds on you.
I don't, you see, what happens is that it's so funny we're talking about, sorry, it's so funny we're talking about politics, like, I'm talking about politics on the level of what you call local government in Nigeria. On the level of what you call a ward. Ward like a parish. My wife was made a councillor. But believe me, after 1 year, I had to tell her to stop, because that's why I said maybe politics is not for me. Because when she went in there, the plan was, okay, she will be at the ward level, I will be at the county level. But when I got to that meeting, I didn't even go further. She went to that meeting. Now, guess what happened at that meeting? The parish chairman has a nephew who has been doing all the contracts for the last 6 years. The secretary has a contract to do, they've divided all the contracts, basically. So most of the people coming there that don't know, they will just come, discuss about the money, and, oh, this will do that, this will do that. Now, my wife is a chartered accountant, and she's an auditor. So the first day she said, oh, so who audits the account? Who does this? Somebody was like, oh, we don't do that here. And she said, okay, fine. What is your tender process? You are talking about Nigeria. This is UK. What is your tender process for this? Oh, we don't have, this person has always given us good value for money. And then the next thing was, oh, they were inviting us to dinner, things like that, trying to take away that issue of looking at. And I just thought, look, there is only so much that you can be beating against a brick wall. So I'm not ashamed to say it, I just know that as far as I'm concerned, if I'm the end of this family, you go into that place, and that's the end of it.
I wanted to ask you a question. How do you effectively combine all these things you're doing? Being in politics, doing your PhD, handling stuff for Pastor Sunday, doing stuff in church, and being a wife to your husband. How do you effectively combine those things together?
Thank you for the question. May I be seated, please? First of all, time management helps me a lot. And two main things help me a lot. First of all, I spend 3 days, 3 days with God every month. I have a big notebook, where I take all the notes, everything which I've heard during the 3 days, I just put down. And those are like milestones for me. And every time I hesitate about whether I'm doing right or wrong, I just open up my notebooks, and they just remind me about the insights I received from God. Oh, well, this is one thing. And this also gives me this connection with God during the other days. It's easier for me, after this 3-day retreat, it's easier for me to hear God. Because in addition to the 3 days, of course, I have daily prayer. And 30 minutes minimum. I have the minimum 30 minutes minimum and 1 hour regular, usually. And number 2 is my membership in a home group of Pastor Sunday, because he teaches a lot about planning. He teaches a lot about planning, and the similar HMT training which I took in 2010 it's a very good, it was a very good training for me to see how many destructive things there were in my life. And I could detect them, not just as, oh, there are so many things. I just put down the list of those destructive things, like mobile, internet, lots of useless talks with people. I mean, when we just stopped just discussing things which were so irrelevant for the HMT training. They were irrelevant, and they just distracted my time. I said to myself, I have this habit to talk to people about useless things, which do not give anything to me, and they give nothing to those people. So I said, that's what I should eliminate from my life. Then I should telephone conversations. I said, I have 1 hour a day during which I can make telephone calls. But it doesn't mean that I will will be on the phone for all this 1 hour. But just before, I will not answer a telephone call until I finish this and this. Then I have 15 minutes, for example, and then 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes. That's when I will use my phone. So daily planning helps a lot, and daily planning comes from the overall picture of what matters in my life. Family matters. My friends matter, but not as much as my family. My church matters, but not as much as God. So I start planning based on my priorities. First of all, coming back to the basics of my answer. So I start planning with the list of my priorities. God is my priority number 1. So he gets the best time of my day. And that's the time when nobody can interrupt me. So, and that's 7 to 8. Sometimes it's 6:30 to 7:30, depending on the rest of my day. So it's the time with God. Nobody can interrupt. My family knows that's my prayer time. My husband knows. My daughter knows. Everyone. Those who don't know and may telephone me, they will not just be replied. And this is my decision. Then, my work. For example, when I worked full-time, it was 9-hour working day, sometimes plus 1 hour to go to the office and 1 hour to come back from the office. So that's time for work only. I never allow myself to work outside my office hours. And that's a decision. And that's about my discipline. And that's about my decision. And I'm just more focused during my office hours. And I do more. I'm more effective. And I do all my planning and thinking and everything which relates to work during my office hours. When I leave, I leave. Mm-hmm. That's it. Then I say, for example, my home group. So what do I do with my home groups? I have we have weekly meetings. We meet before the church, before the ceremony on Sunday. So I just think about how much time and when exactly I choose that time during the week. And that's the time which I spend with them. And home group is normally lasts for 2 hours. So 1.5 hours. So then I take this 1.5 hours and I plan this 1.5 hours there just to use every minute effectively. So, and that's the time when I only think about my home group. And I have a planning. So every time I plan every meeting. I have the topics, I have the Bible verses we need to think about, I mean, like topics for discussion, everything. And I always plan sometimes to just discuss things with people. When the group is over, if there is not something extraordinary we have to address, no extraordinary issues we have to address, we all home group members get their assignment and they leave. They go. We very rarely stay until 12 or 11 in the evening. But I still plan that we meet in the evening. So when we meet at 7, for example, we have to finish at 9. But I presume that some people may want to stay and discuss something with me. So I don't plan anything else for the rest of the day. So, you know, do you get the idea?
Yeah,
it's got very good planning. So if it's home group, you have to have a good idea of what kind of communication and what kind of counteraction you will have with your home group. So that when you meet, it's not just like, okay guys, let's read the Bible. Oh, okay guys, last Sunday there was a nice ceremony, let's discuss something. No, you have a very clear idea of what you're going to discuss and what should be the outcome of that discussion, you know. So good planning. So planning of the week, planning of the month, based on my priorities. And my parents, of course, I spend time with my parents 2 or 3 times a week. But because we meet very often, I don't have to stay there all day long, you know. My husband, when he sees his mother, he goes there, she lives outside Kiev, and they don't see each other very often. He spends 2 or 3 days with her. You know, he does the same planning. So I have a very good idea of why I go there. So I know that my mom loves talking. So when I come, I very rarely tell her about my what I live with, you know, because it's not the kind of thing that fills her, you know. It's not what she needs. It's not what she needs. I mean, because she's quite an elderly woman, she doesn't want any, you know, this excitements and to be anxious, you know. And she will not help me with advice. All she needs, as I understand, she needs to talk to me, to share about what she discussed with her neighbors, about what she went shopping and she saw this and the prices were that, and she can talk and talk. I'm all ears. And her language of love, if you know the book, her language of love is words, communication. So I'm all hers. This is my service. And so after 1 hour of our talk, 2 hours especially, she feels so happy and she feels so filled with love. So when I go, this is my service. So I understand. You understand? When I go to see my parents, I know what I'm going to do with them, so that they felt happy. So they're happy, you know. It's not just like spending time. There should be the outcome. There should be the result. They need to feel happy after we meet. So I do my best. I try to be the most effective to make them happy. So the most effective way is just to listen to my mom and to bring a presents to my father. Because this is his language of love. He loves presents. Even if it's just like a bottle of water, he loves special bottle of water, or some book, or a newspaper, which I bought on the way, which he loves, you know, so something. I have 1 child.
So you have time for
Yes, and I know Dasha needs time to spare because she wants to spend time with me. So we just plan to do something together, like we go shopping together if I need. Yes, hosting HMTs. Yes, you know, I know what makes her happy and what makes me happy. You know, what kind of interaction. So I do planning, taking into account this, what will make her happy.
So you have to analyze also your family. You have to know them.
Yes,
So
I do a lot of it.
You know yourself, but you have to know other
Sure, because I need to know, you know, because as I understand, that many people want different types of interaction and communication. And in order to make it in the most effective way for them, you need to understand what they expect. what they need, you know, what kind of service of yours they need. Whether it is a gift, or just a kind word, or just a hug, or lots of hugs, or just going out. When I worked a lot, for example, we didn't have much time to spend in apartment with my husband and my daughter. So we just went out for dinner or lunch together. But I know that I need to do this at least. We need to meet minimum 3 times a week. So I do my planning during the week, based on that. Did I answer your question?
Very well, thanks.
You're very welcome. We have to finish, unfortunately. It was my... So we have to finish. But I would like to say that it was a great time for me. Thank you for this pleasure and for making me happy. Because I like this, I like teaching, and you gave me this opportunity to do this for you. So I wish you all the best, and may God bless you. And I wish you the best progress you can imagine and you can't imagine. And I'm sure that you will take the most necessary things with you after this training. And it's a training for history makers. So I wish you to become true history makers in your societies. So all the best to you. May God bless you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay, I think you are blessed with this teaching, because this lady, I was enjoying everything that she was saying. Yeah, so we're trying to do our best just to give you everything that we have. And time to. Okay, just 2 minutes, I'll take 2 minutes. You will have a break after this, a short break, and next workshop. So, assignments. I'm not very happy because your assignments worse than yesterday, like the previous one. I don't know what happened. Maybe because you had more time and you decided just to relax more, or I don't know. But yeah, that was not good enough. And it's not, I hope you understand that your assignment is not for us. Of course, I hope you understand it's not for us. We don't need it. It's for you, because here it's much easier to write down all of it. It is much easier to plan, to think, to focus on this particular topics, questions, because you don't have a lot of distractive things here. You are just in this environment and you're swimming in these topics. That's why I suggest you to try to do more. So you will be able to use more when you will get back home. Okay, so second, I didn't get your assignment.
Yeah, it's half time, sorry.
Okay. So we have, but still today we have 3 very, very good works. And Chidubam, unfortunately, but he doesn't, yeah, he's absent. Okay, Olatunji. Sorry, but done. Because I didn't see explanations why is it a lesson to you. Sorry, I don't remember who is Olatunji. You, yeah, so I was right. Yeah, and yeah, so you don't have to write just this is a lesson, or yes, this is a lesson because it helps me that, it shows me that, or I didn't think about this. Why it is a lesson? It means the deep explanation. Like it is a lesson because in my past I was thinking like this. I had this situation and I had this behavior, and now I understand that I have to do this. So it helps you to make more detailed analyze this. Yeah, so it's done. Jahira or Jahira.
Jahira.
Okay, Jahira. Good. Sayim. I was especially disappointed because it's done. It is not detailed at all. And I was like, oh, maybe I should write Pastor Abraham something.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding you. I'm just kidding you. But
can I confess? You know what? It's no excuse, but I mean, I knew it was going to be a done scenario because I was exceptionally tired yesterday.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe all of you that it's not easy. I believe you. But yes, it's not an excuse. So yeah, it's done. Okay, Samuel, good. Why good? It was not very good because, for example, maybe you just don't understand something. If one of the main points in this article was like you were born from God and you can overcome this world, you can overcome everything. Yes, it is good that you understood that you can overcome and you were born to overcome, but what is the detail? Is to write down, I can overcome, so I will do this, 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 and this. Not just, okay, I will create a club. I don't know about your situations in your countries, it is different, yeah. But I will open this, I will create this page in social network, I will create this website, I will like just specific steps. But it was good. Thank you. Okay, and Delma, it's done. Also, it's not good enough, it's not detailed enough. And Boy, it is good. Yeah. Also, more details, like more specific steps. What will you do? I will write a book, I will write that, I will write that, for example. And 3 very, very good works. It is Esther. Please clap to her. Tashan. She was actually the first, and she made it in time.
Wow.
Yeah, and coffee. It is very good. Yeah, but that was the latest work. Okay, so I will mark you. Where are your pages? I can see your page.
Oh, I left it in my room.
Okay, so bring it to me, and I will put the nice green dot. Okay, so now you have a break, short break, like about 10-15 minutes, and you will have another workshop. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great.
Look at me.